Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news across the college football landscape earlier this afternoon. Washington head coach Kalen DeBoer taking the job in Tuscaloosa. Dill, we talked about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Now I want to take the conversation to Washington, which I think is in a really unique spot where there is a ton of buzz and optimism around this program. You're going to the Big Ten in 2024. You just competed for a national championship. This is as energized as we've seen this Washington Husky fan base in a very long time. And now is suddenly the most attractive head coaching spot that's open on the market. And obviously, I've read the message boards. I've read Twitter. Like the Washington fans are extremely frustrated, and rightfully so. But there is a lot of optimism to be had in terms of what Washington can do in terms of getting a head coach to lead them into the Big Ten, and Dale, more importantly, a head coach that wants to be in Washington. Like, to Kalen DeBoer from job to job to job hasn't really been at a program longer than 3 years. Dale, Washington has an opportunity to kind of grab a head coach that wants to build at Washington. Really excited to talk about a few candidates that we want to go over that would be good fits for the Washington Huskies. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a shout out to the Washington Husky fans. Like, this has been a program that was really just a blast to cover over the last couple of months. The amount of support you guys have shown was absolutely phenomenal. It's exciting to now get to cover this head coaching search. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. One, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear how you guys are, feeling about this situation, and let your frustrations out in the comment section. But more importantly, who do you want to see as the next head coach for the Washington Huskies going into the Big Ten? Dill, going to give you the T-box here. Where are we looking?
I mean, I think the exciting part about this thing for this whole situation for Washington is, again, it obviously hurts to lose a coach who just took you to a national championship, won a Pac-12, and went undefeated on his way to that title game. But honestly, in this day and age, like, you kind of look at what they're going to be losing. I mean, even the way DeBoer built this team, it was to an extent almost predicated on winning this year. It was a lot of transfers. The high school recruiting never really picked up a whole lot, frankly. And they were going to kind of have to rebuild this thing anyway. That's kind of, to me, how I'm thinking about it. It's like, I mean, why not rebuild it with somebody you want to be there? Like what you said, DeBoer's been hopping from program to program for 10 years now. He has everything he's looked at has been a stepping stone. And if Washington was going to be that, we'll get it done now and let somebody who wants to build Washington into an elite program, which I think no doubt it can be. You saw how much the fans rallied behind this program this year, how much better, I mean, how much more money you get in the Big Ten.
The fan base for the Washington Huskies that have them. I know we knew the fans were awesome for the Washington Huskies, but Dill, the last couple of months, like, this has been a blast of a team to talk about. We've had a ton of conversations in the comment section with Washington Husky fans, even being Michigan fans ourselves, and getting after it in the national championship. Like, this fan base is really energized. And if you're a head coach, and again, the only head coaching vacancy right now is at the Washington Huskies, you can be kind of the commanding market actor, I guess you'd say. Like, if I'm a head coach looking for that job, like, I wouldn't mind taking my talents to the Washington Huskies. Again, going to the Big Ten, a lot of buzz around this program. And most importantly, like, I think a lot of coaches want to know what the ceiling can be at the program. You just saw the ceiling. You know what the ceiling is. Go back to the Chris Peterson days. Go back to what we just saw the last 2 years for this Washington Huskies program. The ceiling is competing for national titles. So if you're a head coach, like, this is a spot you want to be.
And the Big Ten adds that, frankly. I think, again, when they were in the Pac-12, that conference as a whole was kind of taking a backseat to everyone else because it just wasn't run as well. They didn't make as much money. They didn't have the revenue share coming out of the TV deals that the Big Ten has. Now you kind of look, there are two power conferences. Let's make that very clear. It's the Big Ten. It's the SEC. You're in that big power conference. You have that, again, like, just that excitement. You're playing big games week in and week out. And with the 12-team playoff, you can play big games week in and week out. You don't need to run the table. It just sets itself up better for being really competitive. And that, I think, is what you're looking at with Washington going into the Big Ten, a fan base that I think you can really rally around maybe your dislike of Kalen DeBoer and get it rolling early. I think this is a program somebody can come in and not view it as a stepping stone job, and that's exactly what you're looking for.
That's what 100% couldn't echo those last couple words better. Now the boys, Friday night, we got in the lab. We were searching up candidates, looking at Twitter, looking at the message boards, talking about what Washington fans want, kind of combined with what we thought would be really good options for the Washington Huskies. And Dill, I think the most obvious one is Ryan Grubb and what he's done with this Washington offense. And this is a unit, a Washington offense that we've talked extensively about throughout the duration of the season. The mastermind behind it, obviously Kalen DeBoer played a role, but Ryan Grubb, there's nobody really better. And so if you're Washington and you're looking to continue the success that this program has seen the last 2 years, man, Ryan Grubb's got to be at the top of the list, I would think.
And honestly, the biggest thing is he didn't take that Alabama job last year when they desperately wanted him. I mean, he was obviously their first call. So to me, you got a guy who's at least demonstrated. I mean, if that's Kalen DeBoer, everything about Kalen DeBoer's coaching career tells me he takes that call and is out the second he gets it. I mean, Ryan Grubb was willing to stick it out with Washington. I think he's the guy. I think, again, he's committed to the program. Commit to him and see if you can get it rolling. Because honestly, what worked at Washington the last couple of years was offense. And if you can
phenomenal point there, right? There was a lot of buzz that Ryan Grubb was going to be the next OC for Alabama. He says, no, I want to stay put. Not necessarily. I mean, what makes you think that Ryan Grubb now follow Kalen DeBoer to be the offense coordinator now, a job that he turned down 12 months ago? I think he sees himself as definitely a guy in line for this head coaching job for the Washington Huskies. And again, you look to continue the success that the Washington Huskies just had. I mean, Ryan Grubb would make a ton of sense. Now, Dill, another name that I think popped up for me, and if you guys have listened to me talk this Arizona Wildcats program, Jedd Fisch has been absolutely dynamite. And he has that NFL experience, which I think is becoming more appealing for on the recruiting trail and college programs in general. Like, college football is going to the NFL, like, and how NIL works, and having that NFL experience, I think, is absolutely massive. Then you look at his time at what he's done at Arizona. The couple things that stand out. One, he took a team that won 0 games under Kevin Sumlin in 2020. They only won 1 game his first year in 2021. They go 5-7, make some massive strides in 2022, 10-3 in 2023. An Arizona team that the Pac-12 fans knew Arizona was a legit team. No one else did. I think Jedd Fisch is one of the best kept secrets in all of college football. Would make a ton of sense for the Washington Huskies.
Now been on the West Coast a fair amount, at Arizona, at UCLA, obviously, just like kind of knows that area, can recruit that area. And I'm kind of with you. I think he's a guy who really deserves a step up from what Arizona is giving him. I mean, you kind of heard the stories about Arizona's money issues in the athletic department. Like, that stuff's really starting to matter now. I think he'd have a really good opportunity to jump up and be at a place that he can be at and win at the highest level. I just don't know if Arizona's that. I think he could do it at Washington. I think he's a guy. I mean, he's proven himself. You got to give him a call if he's interested.
One of the things I love most about Jedd Fisch is he took over a roster that was a disaster. I mean, they were 0-6 under Kevin Sumlin, 1-11 under his first year for a reason. That roster, and I mean this respectfully, just stunk. Like, he didn't have any talent. And then what does he do? He goes to the transfer portal and starts kind of finding these diamonds in the rough that are looking for other chances. One of the things I respect most about Jedd Fisch, I think he's a phenomenal football coach from an X's and O's standpoint, but this is a guy that's an elite talent evaluator. And he knows the guys that are going to fit and kind of make that jump to the Power 5 level. And he kind of retools the defense completely going into this year. That offense with guys like Noah Fafita, T-Mac, Jacob Cowing in 2023 was an offense that you look at some of the offense that Jedd Fisch put out this year. I mean, 34.3 points per game. That was 14th in the country. They averaged 6.4 yards per play. That was 13th in the country. This was one of the premier offenses in all of college football, and it took a defense that was outside of the top 100 in 2022, which just decimated with talent, just no talent on that roster, and turned them into a top 30 defense in terms of scoring defense. What Jedd Fisch has done with Arizona, and then you couple that with what he could do for the Washington Huskies. I mean, Jedd Fisch and Ryan Grubb, probably my 2 top choices. Now, Bill, this hurts us. It hurts us to talk to the next candidate, but if Sherrone Moore was going to leave and go to a head coaching job, I would be happy if it was the Washington Huskies. Sherrone Moore potentially going to the Washington Huskies. How do you like that fit?
I mean, another guy who I just think can build a program the right way. I don't think it'd be solely reliant on getting the most talented players in every class every year. I mean, what he's done is he's built Michigan from kind of that, where pre-Sherrone Moore, to being much more We're going to develop up through our linemen. We're going to play really tough physical football, and that's how they're going to win football games. As much as Harbaugh gets a lot of credit, as he should, Sherrone Moore was the guy in our mind as Michigan fans who he engineered that whole operation. When he came in, took that offensive line over, and they started to play physical football, that's when everything started to change. I think he'd be an excellent choice. I think, again, you kind of get to already see him in that interim role a fair amount at Michigan this year, given everything that was swirling around. So a guy with a lot of experience, a loyal guy, a guy who I think has gotten some offers at other places while he's been at Michigan and is stuck there. I think give him the shot. I think he'd stay with Washington. I think he'd be loyal to what he's building. And I think he knows he can win there. So I think he'd be a good look.
Sherrone Moore, I mean, going back to like what Kalen DeBoer did was come, strike some lightning and then dip. Like Sherrone Moore would do that. I think Sherrone Moore would come, build from the ground up, and kind of just like step by step, and especially moving to the Big Ten where the line of scrimmage play, like you need to get that right. Sherrone Moore's going to build this thing on the line of scrimmage. It's a little bit different from what you saw with Kalen DeBoer, but I think he'd be a very successful coach in the Big Ten. And again, as a Sherrone Moore fan, as a massive Sherrone Moore fan, I mean, the Washington Huskies would be a team that I root for a lot in the future if you find Sherrone Moore there. Dill, I got two other names that these are a little bit more fun names, but I want to go with a guy in Chris Peterson, who, I mean, obviously has taken some time off, was a phenomenal coach when he was at the Washington Huskies. Is Chris Peterson ready to come out of retirement?
I mean, he's not super old by coaching standards, especially not at this point in how old some of these dudes are sticking around.
Yes.
I think if you could get him back, I mean, that's like a really good hire. Obviously, ultra successful there. Obviously, when he turned the keys over to Jimmy Lake, it kind of fell apart a little bit. But when he was there, I mean, they were nails. They could recruit at a really high level. They developed at a really high level. He was really good for Washington.
He was awesome. And again, that's more of a fun one. We don't know if he wants to come back. And the last one, that's an ultra fun one. Pete Carroll's looking for a job. Obviously spent a lot of time in Seattle, was a legendary coach at USC. This one, like the more I like put it together, it's like the more it might make sense now. He's a little bit of he's an old coach, but a coach that, I mean, you saw the press conference, the Washington Husky fans, probably Seattle fans, like, he has that juice, and he seems like a guy that could maybe have that energy to compete at the college football level. Another fun one. I don't know if, again, that's an older coach. You don't know how many more years he has left, but would be a fun one to keep in mind. Those are the names we have. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section on some names that we maybe left out. I've seen a lot of buzz around Brennan Marion. Like, when I look at it, this is a very attractive job, and I think there's going to be a lot of coaches that want to take over what Kalen DeBoer just left. Really excited to see how this one plays out. We'll continue to keep you guys updated as it plays out. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys again. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.